Let's get right to the breaking news overnight. An attempted attack at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. The president, first lady, and many other high-profile government officials evacuated as a man charged past a security checkpoint.
It was a chaotic scene with guests diving under tables under orders from authorities here. Here is what we know right now this morning. Authorities say a 31-year-old man from Torrance, California, named Cole Allen, raced past the Secret Service perimeter outside of the Correspondents' Dinner. They say he was heavily armed. Secret Service agents chased him down. They say Allen was not hurt, but an agent was hit by gunfire and saved by his bulletproof vest.
And also, several of our ABC News colleagues were inside the room. They witnessed these events as they happened. And in just the past few hours, we've been learning much more about the suspect. The president holding a news conference on his return to the White House. And we have team coverage this morning from all the angles on this story. ABC News Chief White House correspondent Mary Bruce leading us off from the North Lawn. Good morning, Mary. This had to be such a terrifying situation.
Morgan, good morning. And terrifying really is the right word for this. It was a chaotic and confusing scene. The dinner had just gotten underway. The first time Trump has ever attended as president. I was sitting about 20 feet from him when all of us in the room heard that loud bang. The president later saying he initially thought that a tray had dropped, but it was immediately clear that that was not the case as Secret Service agents in full tactical gear, their guns drawn, swarmed in to protect the president. Overnight chaos at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, moments after it began. Law enforcement storming the stage, an agent throwing his body in front of President Trump. It was just after 8:30 p.m., just moments after the national anthem was played at the annual event. The night's performer, Oz the Mentalist, seen talking to President Trump and the First Lady when agents in tactical gear swarmed in to secure the room. Melania Trump visibly shocked, appearing to mouth, "What happened?" Secret Service agents, their weapons drawn, rushing Trump off stage. Some 2,600 guests packed into the ballroom at the Washington Hilton, diving to the ground, ducking under tables. Among the many journalists there, our team here at ABC. Certainly a very unsettling scene, just a few moments into this dinner. But again, we're all just trying to piece together what exactly just happened here.
I'll tell you, I've not seen moments like this since I was with the president in Butler, Pennsylvania during that attempted assassination.
Members of the administration, including Vice President J.D. Vance, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Marco Rubio, and Pete Hegseth, all evacuated. FBI Director Kash Patel right there, too. Just outside the ballroom, law enforcement say the alleged attacker charged past the security checkpoint. You see him here in this video posted by the president on social media. Secret Service racing to take him down and quickly apprehending him. Seen in this photo also released by the president. One officer shot and taken to the hospital.
We do know that a U.S. Secret Service Uniform Division officer was struck in his vest. He was transported to a local hospital for treatment. The suspect in this case, he was not struck by gunfire.
The president speaking at the White House a short while later, describing the moment.
I heard a noise and sort of thought it was a tray. I thought it was a tray going down. I've heard that many times, and it was a pretty loud noise. And it was from quite far away. He hadn't reached the area at all.
Officials say the alleged gunman had a shotgun, a handgun, and multiple knives as he charged toward the ballroom. That man, now identified as 31-year-old Cole Allen. Overnight, SWAT teams, FBI, and local law enforcement swarming his home in California.
Clearly, things are escalating now that we have this light kind of on that second floor window there and a laser being pointed at the doorbell.
ABC News learning authorities believe Allen booked a room at the Hilton early this month. Officials say he allegedly previously made reference to targeting administration officials, but was not specific. The president determined, vowing to hold the event in the coming weeks.
We very much wanted to continue it because I don't like to let these sick people, these thugs, these horrible, horrible people change the fabric of our life, change the course of what we do.
Now, the president himself personally and the country are unfortunately all too familiar now with political violence. Trump was pressed about his own security posture, but he says he's not reconsidering attending events like this in the future, saying if he were to make changes, he essentially wouldn't be able to attend anything. He said that this is essentially now just part of the job. Whit.
All right, sadly, that is the case. Mary Bruce, we appreciate it. ABC News correspondents Olivia Rubin and correspondent Jay O'Brien, both in the ballroom when the shots were fired. Jay, let's start with you. Must have been a terribly frightening experience. What did you witness?
Yeah, Whit, good morning to you. We heard several loud pops, and we got down on the floor for cover, some at my table hiding underneath the table. There was terror inside that room, and law enforcement who were there on the perimeter of the ballroom started to rush into the middle of the room to get their protectees, the dignitaries that they're assigned to keep safe, out of that room. It's worth pointing out much of the presidential line of succession, from the vice president to the Speaker of the House on down, were inside that ballroom, and we saw those dignitaries rushed out. Speaker of the House Mike Johnson seen sprinting out of the hotel with his security detail. He later thanked law enforcement for their quick work, and I can tell you, I saw law enforcement agents, Capitol Police, and other agents jumping over chairs, running into the middle of that ballroom to get to their protectees, and in some cases, literally picking them up and carrying them out of that ballroom. There are also moments this morning we're learning of bipartisanship. Jared Moskowitz, Democratic congressman of Florida, says that he was protected and pulled into a secure room by the number 2 Republican in the House, Steve Scalise, who is, of course, no stranger to political violence. He was wounded in 2017 in the congressional baseball game shooting. Steve Scalise saying this morning, quote, "This is an event meant to bring people together. Violence has no place in our country." So many people inside that room were rattled by what they saw. As I was walking out of this hotel being evacuated last night, I came across a colleague of mine, another journalist from another outlet. She was crying, and she just kept saying, guys, why does this keep happening? Guys.
Yeah, rattled, but thankfully nobody seriously hurt. Jay O'Brien, our thanks to you. And let's bring in Olivia Rubin. I know you were also in the ballroom there. What did you see and hear?
Well, Whit, thanks for having me. Just to sort of set the lay of the land for a second, large ballroom, thousands of people, the president at the front of the room. And of course, there's sort of this peripheral seating around the back and by the door. That's where a bunch of us, myself and ABC colleagues, were seated. And that seems to be right by the door where this sort of unfolded. So the first thing we knew, at least that I heard, was the 3 very loud bangs from what appeared to be right outside of the main entrance ballroom door that some of us had walked through earlier in the night. I immediately thought that it was gunshots, and many of us immediately dropped down to the ground. You heard Mary describe the chaos and the confusion. This is a tight ballroom with thousands of people, so many of us couldn't even get all the way down to the ground. There wasn't room, so we were crouching on chairs. But that's when, again, the 3 loud bangs, those doors immediately fly open, and you have seen those sort of harrowing videos of Secret Service and other law enforcement flying down the center of that room to get to the president, to get to other cabinet officials that were in the room. You know, I looked back at video on my phone, and there's some video of what appears to be Secretary Kennedy being led out of the room. But certainly, it was those 3 loud bangs. I can't say if there were more loud bangs, but I heard those immediately. I knew that it seemed to be gunshots, and that is when this sort of chaos unfolded, people hitting the floor with.
So I've been to that event a number of times. Hard to imagine the thousands of people then trying to race out of that room. Olivia Rubin for us. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank goodness everyone is safe. And we are learning more at this hour now about the suspect now in police custody and how authorities say he was a guest at the hotel. Let's go to ABC's Chief Justice Correspondent Pierre Thomas, who was also at the dinner inside that room. Pierre, good morning.
Gio, good morning. It was an incredibly dangerous situation, and law enforcement officials say the suspect had deadly intentions as we learn new and deeply disturbing details that the attack may have been carefully planned. This was the chaotic scene as a man rushed past a security checkpoint at the White House Correspondents' Dinner last night with shots fired before the suspect was tackled to the ground by the Secret Service.
He was armed with a shotgun, a handgun, and multiple knives.
And here's the suspect close up, lying shirtless on the ground, identified by law enforcement sources as 31-year-old Cole Allen of Torrance, California. The evidence growing that the suspect may have planned the attack well in advance. Officials said Allen was a guest at the Washington Hilton where the event took place. And according to law enforcement officials briefed on the investigation, he's believed to have booked a room in early April.
It is clear, based upon what we know so far, that this individual was intent on doing as much harm and as much damage as he could.
According to law enforcement sources, Allen is allegedly declining to answer questions, but allegedly made some reference to targeting administration officials, but was not specific. Overnight, the FBI, Secret Service, and local law enforcement launching a massive nationwide investigation into Allen's background and to try to track his recent movements. He is believed to have traveled from Los Angeles to Chicago to D.C. before checking into the hotel on Saturday. Only hours after the attack, the FBI and SWAT teams were already descending on the suspect's home in California. Authorities also have warrants for Allen's mobile devices and computers as they seek to exploit any social media posts and to look for other evidence. Allen is a trained mechanical engineer working as a tutor, according to a LinkedIn page connected to him. He graduated from Caltech in 2017 and from California State University, Dominguez Hills in 2025, according to representatives for both schools.
Authorities say the suspect will be charged with using a gun during a crime of violence and assault with a deadly weapon on a federal officer. He's expected to have his first court appearance on Monday. Morgan?
All right, Chief Justice Correspondent Pierre Thomas. And not long after the shooting, President Trump went before the cameras answering questions from the reporters who witnessed it all. ABC senior White House correspondent Selena Wang joins us now from the White House with more on the president's remarks. Good morning to you, Selena.
Yeah, Morgan, good morning. I was in that ballroom last night, and just hours after we were told to get on the ground to duck under those chairs and tables, a group of us rushed over here to the White House. The president took to the stage in the White House briefing room. He briefed reporters on the incident, and he made it very clear he wants to reschedule this dinner and hold it again. Just hours after being rushed off stage by Secret Service at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, President Trump appearing before cameras.
We wanted to stay tonight. I will tell you, I fought like hell to stay.
Still dressed in a tuxedo, the president flanked by the Director of Homeland Security and the FBI, praising law enforcement.
Very unexpected, but incredibly acted upon by Secret Service and law enforcement.
Trump also praising First Lady Melania Trump, who was there by his side at the dinner.
That was a rather traumatic experience for her. There was a lot of action taking place up there very quickly.
Trump, who has already survived 2 assassination attempts, saying this latest incident wouldn't impact whether or not he attends indoor events.
Then you just don't do events. No, I can't do that. I have to. It is what it is. We have to do it.
And acknowledging the state of political violence in the country.
It's a dangerous profession, but I don't view it that way. Look, I'm here to do a job.
And calling on Americans to unite.
I ask that all Americans recommit with their hearts and resolving our difference peacefully. We have to resolve our differences.
The president also used last night's incident to justify building a massive ballroom in the White House, claiming it would be more secure. But that project is currently tied up in the courts. All of this also comes as President Trump is preparing to welcome King Charles to the White House for a week that will be packed with high-profile events, Gio.
Okay, Selena, thank you so much. Let's go ahead and bring in ABC News contributor and retired FBI agent Brad Garrett. Brad, thank you so much for being here. The White House Correspondents' Dinner, as you know, major annual event, journalists, politicians, celebrities, and of course, as we saw there, the President of the United States in the room. Clearly, there was a security breach here, Brad. What should have been done differently?
So, Gio, the problem the Secret Service and every other protective detail has is, can you actually secure, to their definition, secure a location? Hotels, by their very nature, are very, very difficult. Multiple entries. You have other people staying in the hotel, perhaps away from the ballroom, but in the hotel. And how do you actually create what I call rings of security? Obviously, they had magnetometers to get into the ballroom that's subterranean. But before you got to those, there probably is nothing, because I don't know how you could do that realistically. So what this is going to do, obviously, is change probably using that location ever again, at least if the president is going to attend. And you're going to find more, I think, secure locations to hold if they redo this in a month or so.
Yeah, it's all very concerning. And while campaigning, of course, the president survived 2 assassination attempts. King Charles is visiting the U.S. tomorrow, as Selena just reported. How could we see changes to security procedures at the president's public events?
So I don't think you'll see anything with the king and the president where there isn't a lot of distance between people that haven't been cleared and the 2 of them. In other words, anything that's outside, I think, may happen, but it's going to be very, very controlled, like on the lawn of the White House, etc. I think there will be more rings of security. For example, if you go back to the hotel, if they could have done it, I don't think realistically you could, but if you could have, you'd have an outer ring that you would have to clear before you went through the second set of magnetometers. Again, it slows people down. Could this guy still have gotten by? Maybe. But it's also the reality, Gio, of people in public spaces, and how do you actually protect them?
Yeah, how do you protect them? Brad, President Trump mentioned wanting to have that dinner again a month from now. So what type of resources would be needed to make that happen?
So it's interesting because the president mentions the ballroom he's building. That probably would be a great place. Obviously, it's not done. But some place that has literally where you could build what I would call rings of security. That's what they do at the Super Bowl and other level 1 events. And so that's where I see it moving into some place that has that type of control. There are a number of places in Washington where that could occur, and I suspect they're scoping them out as we speak.
Retired FBI agent Brad Garrett, thank you so much for joining us here this morning. And tune into This Week later this morning here on ABC. George Stephanopoulos interviews Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche, who was also in that ballroom, about the latest developments in the investigation.